Boy, y'all something else, man. Y'all something else, man. They something else, man. All right, y'all. Welcome and welcome and welcome to the most hated show in the black corner of the internet. That's right, y'all. You know how hard it is for those who are avid watchers of this show, subscribers to the show. And if you are a subscriber to the show, what's good, fam? I know it's been a day or so that I ain't been on, but you know how it is. The most hated show on the black corner of the internet. It's always worth trying to get it on. They try to say my channel ain't acceptable, but it's all good. Passerby's welcome. It's always a grand opening over here. Go ahead down the aisle, see something you might see, shop around, hit that like button, that dislike button. Agents, ain't no words for you. You know what it is with you. So again, I decided I'm gonna come out and try to do a show again because you know, I've seen so many people out here who, as our people, and again, when I talk in this format, never trying to exclude people, but again, this is just the dichotomy of how this land, is separated, right? Dichotomy, this side and that side, right? But again, before I even get into all that, let me go and get my spiel out. I got to do it right. Hello and welcome to the Black Minds News. I'm your host, the Whiteologist, Mr. Blows Your Mind. And this show and this channel is to report, transmit, communicate, articulate, relate, decode, unveil, spread the news, whether it's by quotes from publications, news, videos, websites. As I articulate these information, I ask that the creator of the universe be here, heart, mind, soul, and spirit. Because why? The truth don't need no partner. And you know what my motto is? I'm never going to tell you what I heard. I'm only going to tell you what I know. Now again, reason why for this particular video, again, I'm not going to do like I normally do, which I'll probably do my second show tonight. It'll be about news, right? This is news, but this is kind of like in the realm that those people who are being affected by it. And then there's other people who are sitting on the sideline who are looking at it as it won't have no effect on them. So I thought it was incumbent on myself, again, because, again, I consider myself part of the black media of the black corner of the internet. And I noticed that some people, again, they may gloss over the fact of the situation, but they may not get, delve into it, or at least, put the information for those who may be participants in that system or who rely on that system to actually show you step by step of what that is, so that, again, understanding what's taking place here. Now, again, as I said, I'm also I watch other people's shows and I see the stuff that are being said, and I say a lot of people seem to have a glean in their eye, a little jovial in their talk when they're talking about, per se, people who need assistance. Now, again, if it doesn't affect you per se, right, individually, then why do you need to get on the mountaintops and shout down to say like if you're better than somebody else, due to the simple fact that, again, as being a DOS of this land, a descendant of slaves of this land, it is only that the historical aspect of the disenfranchisement of my people that, again, as you've seen this story I did the other day about, there's actually some of our people who were still enslaved up until 1963. People who just got out of what people had been out already prior to that, going back to 18 so-called 65 of the emancipation, right? There's people still after that, almost 100 years later, they were still under that vice. Again, we're not out of this vice. Again, it's kind of like everything else. There's a evolving, right? There's an evolving aspect to life. And so there's an evolving aspect to the system. And so, again, think about that. You know, today, the way you can communicate with one another by picking up the phone, cell phone, text, right? Social media. Well, just imagine at that particular time going back when those who didn't know. And then again, as they said about the, Reconstruction aspect of it, they were sent out with no package, right? They were sent out to be freed with no starter package. Now, again, if you understand history, you know that those who were considered under the title of servant got a severance package, right? Got them a suit, got them some acreage of land. For every part of their family got 50 acres of land, right? And they had a trade. They end up getting the mastership so that they now had a trade. So they had a starter pack. But when you emancipated my people, they came with just whatever they had on their backs. There was no pennies in their pocket. They had really no place to go. And so you came up with a Freedman Bureau, right? The Freedman, right? Where you went there to try to get you something to have some sustenance, but everybody didn't get part of that as well, right? Didn't get part of the Homestead Act where people were getting land to be able to start up and build homes, right? We didn't get none of that, right? And so I see a lot of people who don't actually know history or don't care to assess and look at the fact of cause and effect, and then look at people today and say that they are welfare queens or people who just sit and suck on the titty of the system just because they could be able-bodied and could work. Again, do you understand where we are? What this is? Knowing that the education system that most of our people go into that are part of public school fooling systems. Again, I'm going to say that again. Part of the public fooling system. Don't teach you adequately enough to actually know how to be able to be self-sufficient, other than the fact of being able to pay bills, adding and subtracting, right? And so that makes that there's certain segments of society who are not fully educated because, again, they don't come from educated people, which means education is not really part of the curriculum in a household. It's about getting just the job to maintain. But if you live in dilapidated environments, where are you going to get employment from when those who are in opposition to you, or those who set business for themselves and the prosperity of their own, only going to supply work for their own? Where do you work at? Where do you get your money at, right? So I see people just gleaning and talking the jovial on themselves and that, oh, see, we told you I should have got off it and got off your ass and go get yourself a job and quit. Again, if we're 14 to 13% of the population, are you saying that 100% of our people are on that? Are you saying 50% of our people on that? What percentage of our people are relying on the systems for welfare? So let's just say if it's 14%, half of that is going to be children, right? So we're going to give that 7, let's say 8, because again, there's going to be more children. They're going to be more than adults, right? It's going to be way more children. So we're going to say 7.5%, 8% of that is children up to a certain particular point of age. Then that leaves about 6%. So you're going to say 6% of the adults in the so-called Black American, African American descent are on welfare. You know that's not true. Black people know they got to work. Those who, again, have, gotten themselves in the path or educated and so forth, or been lucky to create their own business and so forth. So what is that? 6, so half of that, 3% of that, 4% of that are employable or have their own, right? So only about 2%. 2% possibly, right? 2% possibly of a 50 million people, 50, right? About 2% of that. So that's not really a large number of people when you really look at it in the totality of it, versus other people that come here from other lands who come on here and allow to get that and still and keep their family intact. Keep that in mind. Other people come here from other countries and get that same thing that you won't talk about them, but you talk about your own as if like you always, it's kind of like the R. Kelly. Everybody coming out to talk shit. Again, I say I don't have a horse in that race, and that's not my business, right? It's old news. We know. But I'm saying all this report came out about jumping on R. Kelly, but all the stuff with Weinstein and Spacey, Kevin Spacey, and the Catholic Church, you wouldn't touch that. But you jump on your own. You jump on your own. You have no problem with that. You'll do that with no hesitant at all. So now you want to shit on those who rely on it and use that as a sustenance. And again, I'll say it again. We as the DOS in this land, if you get anything from this, let's matter of fact, let me put it like this. Those, again, when you understand the transition that took place with the so-called Civil War, what was the Civil War about? Well, it had nothing to do about freeing your ass. It was taking the business from one, because one wanted to expand his business. Go west, young man. What was Go West, young man was about? Expanding the South, getting more territory to broaden up their business, which means the North was going to go belly up because it was not functioning or it was not sharing the wealth. It was making this deal going back with Europe and not fucking with the North. So what you're doing is you're bankrupting them. So now the North is saying we got to collapse that. So who became the booty of the war? We came the booty of the war. Freeing us was to destroy the business that was down there. And you became what? The ward of the who? The state. So God damn it, guess who became your damn parent? Well, guess what happens when your ass is in a situation when you can't maintain on your own? Where the fuck do you go? You go back home to mama and daddy, right? So you didn't give you nothing when you left. You didn't get nothing as a severance package for the service that you rendered as inheritable. You got none of that. But all you did get is that it took you 100 years. After being a man, it took 100 years just to get so-called civil rights. You only been in this game for 52, 53 years. And people like that, we talking as if like our people supposed to be so self-sufficient to the fact that guess what? You should be able to pull yourself by your own bootstrap. Love saying that, don't you? Sounds good, don't you? What really a lot of you is, you're the house nigga. You the coon nigga. You all that shit that don't get to see that, but this is what you sound like when you talk like that. You love shitting on your own damn people as if you understand cause and effect. So you know me, I got to come and I got to say it. Right? So I'm going to lay out these videos here. For those who may come by and see this, it's a damn shame that your own damn people are so quick to say, see, I told you, yeah, now they going to do this and that. As if other people, like we are the biggest, we the biggest consumers of that. Right? The poster of that got our face on. Like the poster of everything seemed to have our face on it. But the truth of the matter is, it's never us. But you have to do that in order to make us look that way. So for those who don't really understand the game or what they done did, I'm going to lay it out for you right quick. Then I'll be back. So you know how I got to do it. And first, let me look out here and see who all in the house. Got a couple people in the house. What's good, y'all? Yo, what's up, Gwinnett Thomas? My brother, what's good, man? I'll be peeping all that stuff you send me, too. We'll talk about that eventually. So let me go ahead and send this out, and let's get it going. Play this out, and then I'll come back. No, first, let me play this first. Well, let's do it this way. Let me do it this way. Because, see, I'm tired. I don't like that. I don't like seeing our people doing that. And people sitting out here and they I see old folks out here saying things as if like they don't understand what done took place, right? See, they know that which watches this channel knows you're not going to have me over here talking like that. I will say what is necessary and need to be said for the simple fact that quit putting us and quit getting in front of massa trying to please massa by shitting on your own damn people. That's what y'all do. So here you go. This is the layout of this.
Control of the House for a few more weeks, yet it seems like they're squandering crucial time. The Wall Street Journal editorial board writing today, the Republican Congress is going out with a whimper, which is a particular shame because this is the last chance for pro-growth government reform for many years. As long as Democrats hold the House, Republicans will be left trying to stop the further expansion of the entitlement state. Back with us to discuss, Robert Wolf. Also joining us, Wall Street Journal editorial page writer Jillian Melcher, Fox News contributor Deneen Borelli. Jillian, you're part of that editorial board. So what exactly is the issue here?
Well, the Farm Bill is a hot mess. That's the short version of it. Basically, the GOP had this golden opportunity to take on work and welfare reform. Basically, that there are 7 to 9 million people who are receiving welfare benefits but earning no pay whatsoever. They could be working, they could be volunteering, they could be working on higher ed, opening up opportunities in the future. But instead of doing that, that's basically going to be out of the Farm Bill now. And instead, you have a lot of subsidies.
Why did they blink like that? I didn't understand when I saw that. I saw it was in, and a couple days later, I saw it was out, and I'm scratching my head. Why?
I think that's a great question for them, especially when you look at all of the pork that's in this. You've got subsidies for huge farms. This is not your small farmer out in Iowa just struggling to get by. And I think part of what's going on is the Trump administration knows this is a bad deal, but tariffs are really hurting farmers, and so I don't think that Trump's going to veto it.
Deneen, I will say, with 7.1 million jobs we learned today open in the most recent report, the JOLTS report, there's work out there. What's wrong with people having to work for welfare?
Yeah, listen, I think it's a bad move on the Republicans' part, especially since they are currently in control. I mean, what better way to incentivize people and give them encouragement and hope to let them know that you can make much more money with a job than you can relying on government assistance. And so I think this is really doing a disservice to Americans, and people need to understand that, yes, our job market is on fire. Businesses are bending over and changing their hiring practices because it's so competitive right now. So the market is ripe and people should take advantage of it.
Robert?
Well, as the Dem listening to you, I should just shut up because you guys are hammering the Republican side here. I would have to agree. They had a big softball. They could have made incredible changes, at least put in some skills training to get people to make sure we have 7 million jobs open. Right. That's because we don't have the skills. Remember, the participation rate's still at 63%. I agree with what the Wall Street Journal said. It seemed to me that they just wanted to give the president kind of a free pass. In the states, he did really well in the midterms. And with the tariffs
But what does that have to do with the work part, though? I don't understand why that would exclude the work part, though.
Because I think it would have actually got caught up in a bill that may have not been passed as easily in the lame duck. You had Democrats that wanted to keep certain things in. You had Republicans that were nervous on the trade and tariff. And at the end of the day, to be blunt, you know, Speaker Ryan, he's lost his complete fiscal discipline. Yeah. It's amazing to me. He's just lost his fiscal discipline.
I'm just so sad to see Republicans blink on this because it is a missed opportunity. And I think if you ask most Americans, even those who favor broad welfare provisions, it is not an unreasonable thing to require able-bodied, working-age people to work.
And I think it's 20 hours, it said today.
Yeah, it's 20 hours. Take a part-time job. Come on.
I mean, it's a 20-hour...
Other states that have done the work requirements or schooling saw people come off the rolls like that, like in individual states. I mean, people flock off the rolls. Real quick also, Deneen, I think they're making a mistake on this prison reform bill, too. McConnell, you know, just I don't get it because Bernice King, Martin Luther King Jr.'s daughter signed on to it last week. You know, she endorsed it. I think it's a great way for them to sort of counter some of the demographic issues that they're going to be facing in the future. And also, I think it's probably a smart and right thing to do.
Well, clearly the devil are in the details of that, what you just mentioned, the reform bill. But you got to look at the fact that how they did not push forward on this initiative. Now, so what will be their accomplishments in the next couple of days?
If you put an up and down vote on the floor, that would pass with flying colors.
With flying colors. It'd
flying
be like
colors.
70.
There are very few bipartisan things. Criminal reform happens to be one of them.
It's nuts that they would let this go by. But then again, are they trying to also curry favor then for the can President Trump go to Nancy Pelosi and say, listen, you know what? We didn't force some things because we're trying to, is this, you know, could it be an olive branch?
If that's the strategy, it's really naive. I don't think Nancy Pelosi is interested in making a deal with President Trump. I think she's just going to want to hammer him. He's a political gift, and she's a political gift to him.
Agree?
Yeah, I agree.
I was hoping Robert would agree on that.
I know when to zip it.
All right, folks, thank you all very much.
Scheduled to vote on a new farm bill today, and eBay wants to create an e-store just for you. Jane King live at the NASDAQ to tell us all about it. Good morning, Jane.
Hey, Melissa. Good morning. Happy Friday. Yes, the farm bill is supposed to be voted on today. I think that is still on the schedule, although there's some question about that. It's turning out to be one of the most controversial items in Washington. Now, some Republican members say they won't vote for it until immigration is voted on. Others don't like the cuts to the food stamp program. The bill may also limit price controls on sugar. Well, lawmakers want airlines to report sexual harassment claims to the government. A recent study found that more than 2/3 of flight attendants have experienced sexual harassment in their careers. Supporters say federal requirements are needed. Well, a new study says 40% of Americans can't afford middle-class basics. This is things like rent, transportation, childcare, and a cell phone. United Way conducted this study and says 66% of Americans earn less than $20 an hour. Well, eBay wants to create a store just for you. They take shoppers' data and previous purchases and offer items they think you will like. This new personalization tool is part of a broader push in the e-commerce industry to use all of your browsing data to help you find more of what you want faster and more easily. And YouTube is not giving up on making us pay for music. Next week, it will launch YouTube Music. There will be a free tier and then a $10 a month tier for premium users. And because of the launch, Google is killing off YouTube Red. And a phone that's being hyped as the world's first holographic media machine is coming later this year. It's called the Red Hydrogen One. Both AT&T and Verizon will sell it. It will have a 5.7-inch screen capable of displaying a 4-view holographic content. No word on the exact cost of this phone. Okay, stocks did a whole lot of nothing yesterday. Everything was lower, but just by a little. Rising interest rates still keeping a lid on gains. Live from the NASDAQ market site in Times Square, I'm Jane King for Fox 8 News. Melissa, back to you.
Jane, I hope you enjoy your weekend.
You too.
Thank you. Very nice.
I'll give that one to How about the cheers? I like to get it. Thank you. Very nice. Who gets that? I'll give that one to How about the cheers?
Now to the Farm Bill. We are proudly joined today by so many members of Congress, Republicans, Democrats, who worked very, very hard on this bill. This was really an effort of everybody. It was a bipartisan success, something you don't hear too much about, but I think you will be. I actually believe we maybe will be over the coming period of time. I hope so. I think so. It's so good for the country. And I want to thank all of the people here, including the many Democrats who have really worked hard on this bill. They really have. I'll probably have to deny that I ever said that someday, but I won't do that because you really did. You worked very, very hard. And millions of former inmates and nonviolent offenders get a second chance at life. So many people have called and thanked me for that. And I thank Mitch and everybody for the job you've done. That was an incredible. Through fires, floods, and freezing weather, we will always stand with the American farmers. The Farm Bill doubles the amount of farmers that they can borrow to expand and improve their farms. It expands and goes all over rural broadband. We are doing broadband. Everyone wanted it so badly. It's amazing how sophisticated the whole farm industry has become. But it expands rural broadband and dedicates additional resources to fight the opioid crisis, a tremendous crisis that we have it down about 18%, but it's just not acceptable. It's an incredible problem for our country. It opens new markets for American agriculture all over the world. In addition to signing this critical legislation today, I am directing my administration to take immediate action on welfare reform. Thanks to our thriving economy, we've already lifted more than 4.6 million Americans off the food stamp roll since the election. And more work remains to be done. We're stopping them in record numbers. At this moment, there is a debate over funding border security. Our goal is to move these Americans from dependence to independence and into a good-paying job and rewarding career. Therefore, I have directed Secretary Perdue to use his authority under the law to close work requirement loopholes in the food stamp program. Under this new rule, able-bodied adults without dependents will have to work or look for work in order to receive their food stamps. Today's action will help Americans transition from welfare to gainful employment, strengthening families and uplifting communities. And that was a difficult thing to get done, but the farmers wanted it done. We all wanted it done. And I think in the end, it's going to make a lot of people very happy. To make fentanyl another one of the big problems. And
if you take a sledgehammer to the issue and impose work restrictions that end up really causing harm to children, not to mention their parents, you're basically doing a disservice. One of the things that I'm always concerned about is if you use hunger as a tool to coerce people to do something, you end up with bad outcomes.
Today, the U.S. Department of Agriculture announced new rules that will restrict who can qualify to receive federal food assistance, known as the SNAP program or food stamps. As William Brangham reports, the move comes after similar explicit restrictions were blocked from the Farm Bill that President Trump signed today.
That's right, Judy. Republicans and President Trump wanted restrictions to the food stamp program to be included in the $867 billion farm bill. But Democrats balked, and so those specific restrictions were left out. But the USDA, that's the agency that oversees the food stamp program, announced today that it is effectively expanding work requirements and allowing fewer exemptions for hundreds of thousands of Americans who receive this federal help buying their groceries. Republicans have long sought these kinds of changes, arguing that too many able-bodied Americans are getting help that they don't really need. Democrats argue these requirements are too harsh and will hurt unemployed and underemployed Americans. Jeffrey Stein has been covering all this for the Washington Post, and he joins me now. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
So tell us a little bit more. The USDA put out these rules today. What specific changes are they making?
So I think what's really important to understand is that the vast majority of the 40 million Americans who receive food stamps are working. And there's ways around what basically the states are allowed to do is to grant exemptions for these work requirements for people with SNAP benefits if they live in an area with very high unemployment. That way people can still get the benefits they need to be able to eat, even if they can't work because there's no jobs and job opportunities in their areas. What the Trump administration said today was we're going to restrict and pare back the ability of states to grant these waivers, which will have the effect of cutting off potentially 755,000 people from the program.
And the argument that they're making is that the rules right now are too lenient in the sense that you're saying if the vast majority of people who receive food stamps are working, what do the requirements actually change?
So right now, the way the food stamp waiver works is if your area, your county has an unemployment rate more than 20% of the national average, then you can get the waiver. This would change that to set it at 7%. So your county would have to have an unemployment rate of above 7% to receive the exemption. And there are approximately 900 counties across the country that fall into that designation. So this could affect a lot of people who rely on these benefits.
So of those 750,000 people, do we know kind of who those people are? Are they old? Are they young? Are they like,
that's
who's the demographic
good question.
there?
It's mostly white people. It's mostly poor people. The average income of this group is about $4,000 a year, which is
$4,000 a year.
It's really not a lot of money. But there are throughout the country, 36 separate states and territories have these waivers. So that's basically half the country, more than half the country. So it's a wide swath of the poor in America.
The Republicans have long argued, this isn't just a fight that's happening in the Trump administration, they have long argued that people need to work, and if they work, then they can receive these benefits. Like, this has been a long ideological fight that the Republicans and the Democrats have been fighting for a long time. I understand that the Republicans wanted even more severe restrictions in the Farm Bill itself.
That's correct. What they wanted to do was to restrict the ability of people with children from 6 to 12 and elderly people, well, not exactly elderly, but between the ages of 49 and 59, to be able to receive food stamp benefits. Those changes were rejected because congressional Republicans needed votes in the Senate to pass their farm bill. So the Trump administration is just going to do this unilaterally, bypassing Congress entirely.
So the rules have been put forward. I understand there's a 90-day window now, and I understand I've already seen in my emails and on Twitter that the Democrats and other groups that support the food stamp program are really fighting this. Like, is there anything that they can do right now to change this?
There's going to be a legal challenge. It's not exactly clear who's going to file that. My guess is it's going to be governors in Democratic states that say this impedes our ability to effectively administer the program, but we haven't heard that yet. Right now, it really seems like the Trump administration is going to be able to do this without anyone stopping them. Maybe that will change, and we'll see.
Jeffrey Stein of the Washington Post, thank you very much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
We thought it was a tremendous idea. So what we do is propose that for folks who are on food stamps, not all, part of their benefits come in the actual sort of, and I don't want to steal somebody's copyright, but a blue apron type program where you actually receive the food instead of receive the cash. It lowers the cost to us because we can buy prices at wholesale whereas they have to buy it at retail. It also makes sure that they're getting nutritious food. So we're pretty excited about that. That's a tremendous cost savings.
Donald Trump's latest genius idea, cutting out half of the cash benefits that most recipients of SNAP benefits, once commonly known as food stamps, receive, and replacing the funds with a box of canned vegetables, cereal, and other non-perishable foods, called America's Harvest Box, despite the fact that it would have zero freshly harvested food. The administration claims the box will somehow improve beneficiaries' nutrition and at the same time slash costs to the tune of $12 billion a year. Joining me now is Tom Colicchio, food policy activist, chef, and owner of Crafted Hospitality. And on the phone with us is Bishop William Barber, president of Repairers of the Breach. And Tom, I'll come to you first. Their idea is to essentially slash the benefits to SNAP in half, essentially. In 2019, it would be a $17.2 billion program. In 2019, they would slash $213.5 billion. They would add work requirements. They would limit eligibility. They would end a nutrition education program. And then they would add costs by having to deliver this box of unperishable food.
Right.
In your view, is this a good idea?
No, this is just an assault on the poor. You know, this Trump administration, they have this obsession with all things Russia. This is like 1960 Soviet era, policy. The idea that these small government Republicans are going to actually replace a public-private partnership, free market enterprise with a bureaucracy that is somehow going to package 16 million meals or 16 million boxes per month and save money just doesn't make sense at all.
And the idea that poor people will lose the right to choose what they eat, that essentially a big government bureaucrat, that's really big government, will choose the food you eat and you don't have a choice. You get this box.
Right. Look what they did with Michelle Obama when she suggests that maybe we should eat more nutritious foods for school lunch.
Exactly.
And so, no, this just smacks with hypocrisy.
It's amazing, Bishop Barber, because the part of this seems to be rooted in the perception that people who are struggling are mostly non-white and that they are leeching off the system, sitting around driving a Cadillac and eating lobster and steak is what fills up my mentions whenever we talk about the poor. But the fact is, the Washington Post just put out statistics from the census that 17% of the people who would be impacted by this policy change are rural Americans and only 13% are urban.
Yeah, and the majority are white and women. I mean, when you look at poverty in this country, there are 8 million more poor white people than there are African Americans, and the majority of these people live in the very states where many of these politicians get elected by voter suppression and other racial ways. The Southern strategy, I've mentioned a lot of times on this phone, part of the Southern strategy began in the 1968 in order to control the Congress and try to control the presidency was to teach that somehow entitlements and programs were black and brown people getting things that was hurting white people. And so programs were racialized. And I was thinking, Joe, this was a triple threat. It's like a 19th century, ghost of days past. This man with, he had a cross on his forehead doing Lent. This is on Wednesday, for Ash Wednesday. And none of these policies line up with Christ. They're talking about health care, cutting millions of people, food now to millions of people, and even heat to 7 million people. They're talking about taking it. It's a triple threat and a direct attack on the poor and the working poor.
It's amazing, Tom, because you're not talking about a lot of money per person. SNAP benefits are only about $125 a month, $126 a month, $254 a household. 94% of the funding for this program goes right to benefits that get spent at your local grocery store, that get spent in Walmart. Through the freedom of choice, people spend 100% of their benefits. You can't keep any of it. You have to spend it, and that means you're buying food from food manufacturers. How can Republicans interpret that as a bad idea? Doesn't it help the economy?
Of course it helps the economy. And also, there are great programs like the Double Up program where if you're a SNAP recipient and you're shopping in a farmer's market, you're actually getting double the amount of your benefit. That money goes directly to farmers.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so there's also a multiplier effect. For every dollar spent through the SNAP system, it actually creates about $1.75 of economic activity.
Yeah.
So it's actually great for communities as well. So no, we need, let's really start talking about nutrition, because that's really the crux of this here. Children, when they go to school, if they have a proper breakfast, they actually can learn. We're talking about seniors. We're talking about people with disabilities. This is the way they actually feed themselves. We're also talking about 1.5 million veterans who protected this country, who are struggling to feed themselves because they come home with PTSD and they're really struggling to find work. We're also talking about active military that this will hurt as well because they're on SNAP as well.
Yeah.
And so we're talking about the working poor. We're not talking about people who are looking for a handout. We're talking about children, seniors, people with disabilities, and people that are working.
Working minimum wage or at Walmart.
Exactly. And so this is just a terrible idea. We actually need to increase the benefits of SNAP so people can actually afford healthy food.
Yeah.
Because right now we have about $200 billion of healthcare costs that are associated with poor diet because people can't afford nutrition.
Yeah.
They can afford calories, but they can't afford nutrition.
That's an excellent point. And Bishop Barber, you work a lot in the rural communities in North Carolina. I mean, what happens if they're also cutting the post office and want to cut that back? What happens if someone's box doesn't get delivered? What happens if it's out in the rain and gets wet? What happens if the children in the household are allergic to what's in the box? Where is the church? Where is the white evangelical church to say that this is cruelty? And it's not just cruelty they think it's cruelty to black and brown people, but you personally know that this is also the white rural poor.
Well, all over the South and other places, the homeless, whether it's in Seattle, Washington, where there are homeless people in the harbor, or whether it's in Alabama, whether it's in North Carolina. And I think the so-called evangelicals are where they normally are. They're not with Jesus. They are not with the Jesus who talked about good news to the poor. They are not with the scriptures that talked about how we should not be attacking the poor. And I do want to say this is not just about the work, but it's about the poor. And you have to say the poor because people suggest that people are not working poor, then somehow they're just lazy. No, people are trapped in systemic poverty. And the moral issue, Joe, here is we've got 14 million poor children, for instance, in this country. You're talking about an administration that will give trillions of greedy tax welfare to the greedy. They will give billions to banks and say banks are too big to fail and give them billions, and then put billions in a wall, but then they want to give boxes to the poor and to the working poor. I mean, it's so immoral. It's a contradiction to our scriptures, a contradiction to our Constitution, the establishment of justice and the promotion of the general welfare. But then, Joy, there's another thing, lastly, and I want to say this deeply from a moral perspective, and that is the question before America. How much have you had to dehumanize yourself in order to use power in such ways to dehumanize others? And Americans have to stand up and say, we're not going to allow this to happen in our name, with our government, with our democracy.
Yeah, indeed. We are reminded that when Jesus fed the multitudes, he gave them fresh fish.
Yeah, and fresh bread.
Amen. Tom Colicchio, Bishop William Barber, thank you both very much. And coming up at the top of the hour, Donald Trump's national security advisor just admitted that Russian interference is now beyond dispute. Wasn't that special? More on that at noon. But up next, more AM Joy.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me, or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.
Billions in food stamp payments to come early because of shutdown. You know I'm going to say that again. Billions in food stamp payments to come early because of shutdown. This story was done today, January the 12th, 2019, from Politico, and this is how it reads. The partial government shutdown, hours away from becoming the longest in United States history, means that millions of low-income Americans are about to get their February food stamps a few weeks early. An unprecedented payment of billions of dollars in benefits that has states and grocery stores scrambling. After raising alarm that the food stamp program could run out of funding for February, the Trump administration announced this week that it had come up with a way to bankroll more than $4.8 billion in benefits next month, with just one catch. Benefits for nearly 39 million people enrolled in the program must be paid out by January 20th, weeks earlier than usual. The workaround creates serious logistical and communication challenges and could lead to widespread confusion about how benefits in the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, formerly known as food stamps, will be distributed in coming months. If the spending impasses continue, the federal government has experienced issuing SNAP benefits on short notice in a single state or region in response to natural disasters, but a single payout of this size and scale is uncharted territory, offering a new window into the shutdown far-reaching effects. We don't know of any time this has ever happened, said Hannah Walker, Senior Director of Technology and Nutrition Policy at the Food Marketing Institute, which represents retailers like Kroger, Walmart, Safeway. Grocery retailers across the country are preparing for a potential onslaught of SNAP shoppers beginning next week and making sure they have enough food stocked and employees on hand to handle the volume. SNAP purchases account for nearly 10% of all grocery store businesses in the United States each year, according to recent estimates. Many retailers are also trying to figure out how to best communicate with SNAP recipients, many of whom may be confused about why they're getting extra benefits next week. SNAP is overseen by the Agriculture Department, but administers on the state levels typically staggers when their benefits are uploaded onto electronic benefit transfer cards and part of making it logistical easier on grocery stores. SNAP recipients might normally get their benefits in the first, second, or even the third or fourth week of the month. For some, early assurance will mean they will get their SNAP benefits for February more than a month early. State agencies are likely to issue SNAP benefits earlier than January the 20th, the payment date USAID announced this week. Since that date falls on a Sunday, during a holiday weekend, several states are planning to issue their February benefits next Friday, January 18th, or in some cases even earlier, according to multiple sources familiar with state-level planning. The average benefit per household is $249 per month. The majority of SNAP recipients are children, elderly, or have a disability. While USAID remains without funding, one of 9 federal agencies affected by the partial shutdown that begins on December 21st. States are accepting SNAP applications for those in need without interruption. Individuals can still apply for benefits before or after January 20th. The funding lapse has raised concerns about how long major federal nutrition programs, including SNAP and school meal programs, can continue to operate without a spending fix from Congress. Funding the Special Supplementary Nutrition Program for Women, Infants, and Children, which provides staple foods, infant formula, and breastfeeding support to millions of low-income pregnant mothers and their young children, also has sufficient funding for February, administration officials said this week. The program serves about half of all babies born in the United States. School nutrition initiatives, such as the National School Lunch Program, which serves about 30 million children each day, has enough funding to last through the end of March. SNAP is in a unique budgetary category. It's a mandatory entitlement, which means anyone who meets the program's income and other eligibility requirements is entitled to benefits, but the program does not have automatic funding and must rely on appropriation from Congress. Usually, Congress waves through the funding needed to keep SNAP benefits flowing, but not this time. Program benefits were funded as normal for January. The early issuance for February was a creative method the administration devised to keep SNAP running without dipping into a reserve fund, or at least $3 billion USDA is able to make the payment for February based on an obscure provision in the short-term continuing resolution that kept several federal agencies funded through December the 21st. The change up in timing for February benefit present a major communication test for USDA and state officials and places them on a tight deadline to implement the backup plan. USDA held a call with state leaders on Friday to try to hash out logistics. States were told they need to move quickly to work with their vendors to schedule payments next week. SNAP is administered under a different program name in some states. In California, for example, it is called CalFresh. In Wisconsin, it goes by the name Food Share. In Texas, benefits are loaded onto Lone Star cards. Many state officials have expressed confidence that they can make the early payments work so recipients don't experience an interruption in benefits. It's an expedient timeline and it's a lot of work, but folks think it's workable, said Ann Flagg, Director of Center for Child and Family Well-Being at the American Public Human Service Association, which represents state agencies that administer SNAP and other programs. Some state agencies are racing to send letters as soon as possible to all of their SNAP recipients, explaining the changes. Other plans to use text message, social media, or radio spots to get the word out. Across the board, states are likely to rely heavily on grocery retailers, local nonprofits, and food banks to help spread the message and cut down on confusion. There's going to be a big challenge explaining to recipients or clients you're getting your early insurance for February. Let's say you usually get it February 5th. That's not going to happen, and we still don't know what to tell them about March, said Ellen Vollinger, Food Stamps and Legal Director at the Food Research and Action Center and Anti-Hunger Group. The Trump administration has not specified how it plans to deal with benefits if the shutdown continues and Congress does not provide money needed for SNAP benefits in March. USDA officials have said that if the shutdown continues, they'll look for other ways to keep the federal nutrition program running to the greatest extent possible. Americans should have access to food, and we will use all available legal options to make that happen, Brandon Lips, administrator of USDA Food Administration and Nutrition Service, and the Department Acting Deputy Undersecretary of Food Nutrition and Consumer Services, said this week. If I'm back. All right. So I'm back. All right, y'all. Appreciate y'all for being patient and watching that. Again, there was a lot of information in there. For those who may not had, been up on that, right? So we going to go over a little bit. Again, I'm not going to get too deep into the politics aspect of it. Again, this is Black Minds News. Again, let me hold something. Brother, try to keep informed information to keep you up, whether you be one side of the equation or not. But again, that's what we over here. We are Black Minds News. Let me get a like, share, comment, say I'm not shit. Whatever it is you got to do, you do that. It's all good, right? I don't block nobody. Everybody's opinion is entitled to their own. Now what you've seen there, you gave a little bit of history as to those who may not be informed as to what transpired, right? You had the Farm Bill, right? You had the signing of the Farm Bill. Then you have this, debate as to, whether it's, morally right and those who would be more affected by it. Again, then they give you the demographics, also give you the race, right? And, again, as I was saying prior to before the videos played, is that, again, black people in this country have always been posterized as being the welfare recipients, the queens and so forth, right? The main recipients to receiving assistance. When, again, we're only 13-14% of the country, which means that which is supposed to be of the majority, right? How is it that we could be greater than them? That would mean that them, they all is 100% of our people, which we know that's to be a lie. So, as you heard, the Reverend Barber talked about that, again, this is going to affect those who have been the working poor and the poor, right? Because, again, you can have a job and still not make ends meet. And that there's some people who work and still use the assistance that they get. Because, again, let's look at the history of this. And, again, when we look at what was said. So accordingly, that in order to be a recipient of whether it be SNAP or whether it be, just the regular assistance of food stamps, they're going to require you to have a 20 hours. So again, as I said, that I've seen a lot of people who look like they DOS, black Americans. Again, African Americans and black Americans are two different things to me, right? Descendant DOS is those who were of that which created and built and produced in this land. I am part of that bloodline. And African American could be anybody who is basically of descendancy that goes back to Africa, right? Doesn't make me greater than you, but it does distinguish you from me in here as into what I'm talking about, right? And so when you talk about requiring somebody to work 20 hours and then understand being in those environments that most black Americans live in, if getting a job for 20 hours could cure that, that would have had already been done, right? We got to remember that they outsourced a lot of the jobs due to the simple fact that, again, you want, people who have business are in business for profit, not just for the simple fact of having a business. So in the sense of you don't want to deal with the people who know you the most because you can't trick them. Again, it's kind of like I use an analogy as to brothers and sisters, right? When you have an older brother, older sister, and there's, let's say, three of you, and then there's a baby one, and the uncle comes by and give everybody, let's say, $20, give the oldest a 20 solid, give the middle child, give them 4 5s, right? Or let's say, you can say that, okay, 4 5s, right? And then give the baby one 2 10s, right? So what you could do with the baby, you could trick the baby, right? Because the baby don't know. You give one of the 5s and give him for swatch it with him because you don't really know the denomination of the money. He might take the 5 of the 10 because he don't know 20 is 20. He just know he got 2 bills, right? Or, you trick him like that, right? And then the middle child comes up a little bit. Well, that's the same thing here, right? We didn't get nothing in that trade-in. We always been, something's been taken from us. Promises was made, but we never got any of that, right? And so requiring us to work when you outsource many of the jobs because you wanted to get somebody to pay them less, so that you had to pay for insurance and everything else. And again, you couldn't pay the DOS, the money that you pay people that come from other nations here. So you undermine them by bringing immigrants here. Well, that was a grand ideal at the time. But again, that when you bring after you don't deal with them, then they start learning the game. Then you got to get somebody new, and then you got to get somebody new. You know what I'm saying? Then after a while, you run out of resources. But what happens is you talk about you got 7 million jobs available. And most of the people that are probably on these assistance, education, again, they're coming out of these dilapidated and these high incarcerated or high crime areas with the poorest school, systems in the country. They probably won't be, qualifying to work unless these are just meager jobs anyway, right? And a lot of those jobs are not available because, again, that's what the immigration is, right? And there's a lot of people who have those jobs that are paying people who are not on the books. That's another thing too, right? So now what you're going to do is you're just going to come and pull the damn rug and say, fuck it, you're going to work now in order for you to get something. You've been riding this titty too damn long. You've been sucking it too damn long. So it's now time for you to get off. Bluntly, directly. Oh, the ideology of it sounds great. But in application of it, the ripple effect is going to cause a lot of harm. Now, again, somebody said, for people to have, I'm saying that, again, you have to transition shit. But it looks like here that somebody got a grandiose idea. They're going to eventually implement this, whether you like it or not. So you see that the signature that you've seen President Trump sign is where this change is beginning. So the Farm Bill was going to be to cut the so-called assistance with the food stamps, right? And so I'm looking at that Farm Bill, and then when they showed the video, they showed the people out there that had to work. It kind of reminds you of something historically, didn't it? It's the one thing that a lot of people who migrated from the South that came to what we end up being those chocolate cities, right? They were trying to get away from the stigmatization, being plantation, agriculture, and it seemed like somebody has an idea of trying to get you back put the genie back in the bottom. So you say if you're using food as as a negotiator or a hostage, and trying to force people in order to do this, does that have a good outcome? Right? But again, as the poster is going to be about black people, but we know pretty much the bigger number is going to be white people. Right? We know that. As much as you would like to say when you get in your little, mind of want to be, bigotry and racist and hateful. Oh, you go. That's one of your cards you pull. You say like black people pull the race card, well, white people pull out the welfare card and act as if that is so true. When you know damn well that can't be true. So the agriculture that they're going to be using is saying it's not going to just be here, going worldwide, right? So again, I said some shows back as I was saying, well, damn, okay, they got a new crop now. This new crop they talking about, it seemed to be about marijuana. I'm like, well, who the hell is going to harvest this shit? Do I need to say that again? There's a new crop coming. I mean, you got Coca-Cola, you got Marlboro, you got all kind of people investing into that. So they said, well, 20 hours is nothing. It's a part-time job. Coming from who? You? You ever worked? Or what you did? You just inherited and got plush jobs, or again, keeping the status quo, keeping things in the same, and that's what you've been, but you telling other people about part-time work? If part-time work and people getting accessibility to the job, they could remedy that. But that was never the plan. Because you never want to pay according to what somebody should be making, so you find somebody again who you could pay less. So now to make America great again, mega, right? And trying to make everything American made, well, got a good way. We can get some of these people that's on these assistants and make them work. Them able-bodied ones. They able-bodied. You could be able-bodied, but that don't mean that you, let's say, again, let's go with the lie that they told us here. They want you to believe that they could just grab anybody that when they went to Africa, took them, threw them on a boat, brought them here to this country, and they could build the country without having any knowledge, any knowledge of masonry, farming, agriculture. You understand? They want you to believe that you could just go, get in your car, and say you need some work done, and say you own a house or whatever, and you need some work done, that you could just go and pick up anybody and have them do your plumbing. They can do, you understand? That's what they want you to believe. So that'd be the same thing here. You could say you got 7 million jobs, but there's a lot of people who are not function educated to even be able to do some of them things. Again, if we're talking about we're now more in a technological state, so what kind of jobs are you talking about? Pretty much kids are now vibing for the damn, it used to be McDonald's and Burger King was a job that you went to when you was in high school to get your starter to, learn how to work. But you competing now with mom, sometimes grandma, getting them jobs too. Right? So working poor, people just working again to try to maintain. Now again, as I was saying before, as being DOS, well, again, you never cured what was caused. Yes, you could say Emancipation Proclamation. Well, we got you out of that situation. But you didn't give them no starter pack. And so people try to do and maintain, but again, generational wealth is the game that we seeing, that those who are calling the shots. And those who are not a part of that, well, you have been generationally part of sucking on the titty, and we want to take your lips off the titty. What else they going to be able to do? You take the choicest ones that would have any kind of, let's say, intelligence and cognitive. You take them from the institutions of higher learning, and then you bring them and put them into your machine, so they never really trickle back down, so that they can build back in the environments that they come from. Matter of fact, they actually disdain them. They'll be the ones talking about, you need to pull yourself by your bootstrap. You need to do what I've done. Well, everybody not blessed to be that way. And we'd be lying if we say that. If we would say that everybody was to work, let's say if everybody is able and willing to work, would they have employment? We need to stop lying, because you couldn't find the work. So that's why a part of your segment of society has to be poor, because there's certain people whose profession rely on the dysfunction on this, the incarceration, the mental illnesses, right? There's certain people who need that because, again, they went to school to get a profession, and they make that. And there's social workers. Well, the people ain't put up, then what kind of job you got? What good is a judge if there's no crime? What good is a police officer if there's no people doing that and breaking laws? What good is it? So you got to have a segment of society fucked up like that, right? You got to have it. So it says that 66%, right, of the people in the nation is making about $20, less than $20 an hour. $20 an hour probably bring about a little more than $40,000 a year, right? About 40. We're talking about taxes and stuff, right? About 40,000 now, right? It's okay, depending on what size of family you got, and just for yourself. But again, you know how it is. Again, living in a material environment, material country. The more you spend, the more, right? The more you make, or the less you make, the more you spend. So you seem to never have enough. So you always spend more than what you make. So you're always in needing more. And that's why they always inundating your ass with commercials. Don't you want to buy this? They're always soliciting. Don't you need this? Ain't you hungry? Don't you want a burger? Don't you want a pizza? How about buying this furniture? How about this TV? How much? Don't you want to go here? See, keeping you like that. So then when you're poor, when you're poor, you don't have those options. And who grows up thinking they're going to be poor? Who does that? Nobody. but those become the conditions. And they say, well, they put the onus on you. Well, maybe you didn't apply yourself. Well, is it about what you know? Is it about who you know? Let me say that again. Is it about what you know? Is it about who you know? Yes, sometimes you can get in because they have quotas. But a lot of jobs, there's a lot of jobs that you wouldn't even know that they were hiring if somebody went in that didn't tell you. Or they call nepotism, right? That kind of stuff, right? You know. So when you are people who have been disenfranchised, you don't have that kind of, you know, connections and allies, right? You have to hope that you say or get in the interview and somehow somebody's taking an interest of you. See, and again, going back to the education, if we look at it, there are a lot of times that the black teachings in those households was about go out there and get you a job. It was never about going to school, get that education, bring that back in so we could create something that could be for the environment. Because again, everything, the grass is greener everywhere else. Because the minute you got some money, you want to get the hell away from where the people that was around you. Because again, the condition, the redlining, the designated areas that you had to live in. And again, if you're the only one that got something, everybody around you don't got none, I guess you're going to be a stagecoach. Somebody is going to rob your ass. They're going to rob you. So your first thing you do is you take yourself and your family, you get the hell away from over there, which now takes away whatever you knew and what you could have helped, and you put it in somewhere, somebody else. So that grass is always looking greener because they always getting all the choices of everybody's. Every nation pretty much think that the grass is green over there. And then you have the people who come here from other countries. Again, I'm of the DOS, so we have a certain heart and spirit that we are, you need a hammock? Hey, Christopher Columbus, you need a hammock? You guys don't have, we'll help fix your ship. You want to eat? You want to smoke? We got some smoke. You want to smoke too? You want to drink? I got a cousin over here need a man. You want her too? Huh? And then you turn around, you hold a gun to my damn head. What? Really? That's how we get out, right? Okay. So they want to say that people between the ages of 49 and 59, well, you able-bodied. You shouldn't be getting no assistance. Well, then if you come from where I come from and you come to cut from the people I've cut from, I mean, people not even really living long. Black people not even living that long. I know the brand new ones. You into the health and all that stuff, and you maintain it so that you might get, but you may not even still get no Social Security because there might be no money because there's so many people who came here who didn't put none in. And let me say that again. There's so many people who came here from other places. And again, I don't say this to be picking on anybody, but this is just a fact. Many people came here from other countries who came here through that funnel underground, bringing it, nepotism, bringing family in over here, and people came here who didn't put nothing into the system, but took a lot out, and now when it's time for me and others to come, they say, well, we ain't got no money for you. Plus, they ain't gonna talk about what the politicians was doing. So now they said the way we're gonna fix it is we're gonna use them, and then they're gonna contribute more so we can start paying back some of these pensions and stuff. Really? But see, you got a big bill that you never dealt with is the one who contributed and made what you can call the greatest country. You never gave them nothing. Huh? Promises you can't keep. So anyway, when you look at this whole thing, we look at the fact that they were talking about, well, what they called it? They called it the blue apron, the harvest box. We ain't gonna give you no money. See, we've been, you black people, you kind of slick. We'll give you this thing and you're selling it, making money, or you're buying liquor, or you're getting a Italian beef or some shit like that, right? No, we're going to just give you a food box, some shit you won't eat, but you're going to give me that shit, right? Matter of fact, better look at the simple fact that they talking about agriculture and talking about that farming shit. I'm pretty sure that shit got GMO in it somewhere. I bet it got that GMO shit in there too, don't it? Right? So you talking about nutrition. Well, you making Franken food. What nutrition is in that shit when you the one concocting and, making shit and calling this shit going back, those who've been around, remember when the first time you was talking about a seedless watermelon and all that seedless shit, and they was selling that shit to you. Back in the day, damn well you couldn't eat that shit and didn't have a seed. Then where did it come from? Well, now I done got to the fact that so now it's everybody used to that shit. So this part of the game now. We remember those who've been around. Remember you had to have a seed. Well, guess what? Somebody said no. We the ones had the patent to the seeds. So now what they're gonna do is now they're gonna give you a box. You got to do that, like Joy was saying. What if it get stolen and rain on? Well, too bad, so glad. That's your problem, ain't mine. I guess that's gonna open up some jobs too, because somebody got to deliver the boxes, right? Somebody got to pack the boxes and make the boxes, right? So they're creating jobs. Hey, and he got 4.6 million people off of welfare. But no, that's just about maybe them probably had to get a damn job, probably, right? Because I hear a lot of people talking about, see, you should have been. If you're getting, don't you see now that in order for you to even get something, you're going to have to do something? It ain't just getting no more. It's no more of that. So again, they had another little stipulation into it. They said, well, 20%, if you live in an area where it's 20% unemployment, that you would have to do the 20 hours. Then they said, well, if you live in an area where 7%, right, where 7% of unemployment, then you can be waived. Then they said, no. They said, no. You can't get that waiver. Because there's certain counties and communities in this country where we know damn there's no jobs. So the unemployment is high. Again, if they're going to tell you that unemployment is this number, but when you put it in that black community, it's double, triple that number. But you're not going to give them no waiver. Because they, again, as George said, riding around in a Cadillac and, all that other good stuff, right? So, more to this story is, somebody got a plan, y'all. And they using this to implement it in. Holding it hostage. We put you on hostage about what you try to eat to give me this wall. And let me tell you this other thing before I stop this. Go get your food now. Go to the store and buy your food now. Because when they release these funds, there will be no food in no store. I'm going to say that again. Think about what I'm talking about. If you don't get no food, remember it said about the 18th, that they still going to let something. Today, the 12th. If you won't go get no food where you live at right now, ain't going to be no food. Because them mugs is coming to spend, and they not, again, they talking about they need to explain to them why they getting more on their card. They going to see that extra on there, not knowing that the money that they putting on there is actually your February money commingled together with this month's money. And they're going to spend, and they said the stores are getting in preparation. So whose grandiose ideas like that? Put it on hold, then they can all see it's kind of like another Christmas. Maybe that's what it was. Maybe people are not participating as much in Christmas as they used to as in spending, and so they came up with this. Well, why don't you put a stoppage on that, and then let's do this, and then now we can make up for some of the money we didn't make. Because the stores are about to sell out. I'm telling you, but get your food. Well, I just wanted to bring that to bring some attention to it, y'all. Let me look out here who out in the fam out here. I got a couple people in the house. All right, got a couple in the house. Let's see. The last time I seen a training program for a job is what Bernard Thomas said. No, they don't do that no more. They don't even have entry level no more, right? Right? They don't even got that no more. So it's just like, well, it's not so much about training. It ain't about training. They don't care about no training. It just sounds good to say that they got this, to say that, so then somebody like me who will point out and say, what about this, and that? They say, well, we got 7 million jobs. Well, if you said you got 40 million people on it, with 7, so these still gonna have 33 million people that 33, huh? Wow. 33 million people who won't still have no job regardless. So it don't matter. 7 million jobs still can't be suffice enough for 40 million that's supposed to be on it. So that means 33 million people still won't be able to work, even if it's 20 hours, right? So I'm just saying, I hear what you're saying, Bernard Thomas. No, they don't. It ain't about training. Because most time when you go on a job and somebody supposed to train you, they not trying to train because they figure if I train you, you're going to take my job. So you either sink or swim. You learn how to do it by trial and error, well, you ain't got no job, right? Unless, that's how most jobs do, again, depending on what type of work you're doing, right? So I'm just saying, I hear some of our people laughing and looking at our people and saying, oh, see, I told you this. Man, hey, nobody wants to be in a position they want to if they had a choice. Yes, there may be some people that, again, it is what it is. But some of them, again, if you cut from RDOS, after what your ass has done paid, your jeans might be tired. The shit, I done put enough in work for free. Huh? Don't I got some credit somewhere? I mean, damn, the North did take us and bring us in and made us part of the system so that they can make the money off. Oh, my God, damn it, maybe I'm tired. Maybe I don't want to do this shit no more. But then we lazy and we tired. But we put in the most work. I know everybody talking about this is our country. We Americans. Yeah, you said that, but you didn't put more work than we did. Say you did. You be lying. So I'm just saying, be mindful, man. Quit being so quick to be talking about our damn people because of the condition they're in. If we never had been in a condition, or if they had cured the situation, then I could say yes. Well, what happened to the money that your people inherit? Why you can't say you didn't have it, this, or that. That would be different, but you didn't get nothing. So why shit on your people? Because again, you don't understand the design of how this shit has been from the inception to historically where it's been. That just show again your hate towards your own damn people. As much as you want to be pro, as you say you pro, but in the back of your mind, you still got to disdain all this thing that you better than. I don't give a fuck if you made $1 million a year to somebody who don't make no money. You ain't better because we all in the same shit. Because again, they could. Anyway, I ain't gonna go into that. But anyway, I want to thank everybody who came out today. Again, I want to get back so I can get to the second show. Right, this here I just had to do because I seen so much out there. But next show will be the normal way it goes. Again. Let me remind some of that. I see some people sitting up in here. You might be new in here. It might be white in here. You might be Chinese in here. It might be Hispanic in here. Again, this is Black Minds News. Again, there's sometimes black media needs to say certain things that, again, mainstream won't say. So don't take offense to nothing being said. It just has to be said. Now, if that's not you, then it's not you. Otherwise, then the fact that, take it for what it is, right? Matter of fact, since I got a couple of you up in here, let me give me one more dose of this, right? Let's see. Let's see. I got one more thing here, right? This one gonna trip you out. This is gonna trip you out, Bernard. But first, let me do this first, then come back and get up out of here.
Ever since I was 13, my biggest problem has been just to find the right road to get to that rainbow that everybody talks about. Like most people get close enough to count their stripes, but they don't have enough guts to reach out and take that pot of gold.
And what are you going to do?
I'm gonna walk off with the whole pot.
You going to share that with anyone?
There's a possibility I might share it with a little lady I just met who calls herself Diane. It's not gonna be easy though, baby. It's not gonna be easy. It's gonna be hard work.
I really have a lot of good feelings. I know when I first saw you, I just wanted to touch you and hold you. And there's an incredible excitement about you. Something very powerful.
Yeah, I had those good feelings about you when I first saw you.
So where do we go from here?
You go all the way to the top if you're not afraid. Everything's gonna be all right. I'm gonna be everything to you. I'm gonna be your father. I'm gonna be your friend. I'm gonna be your lover. But you gotta believe in me. You gotta believe that everything I tell you to do is for the best. For the both of us, okay? Is a toast to what we're getting into.
Portions of the following program may be unsuitable for younger or more sensitive viewers. Viewer discretion is advised.
Remember, the enemy has only images and illusions, behind which he hides his true motives. Destroy the image, and you will break the enemy.
I'm here to tell you tonight that the businessmen, the mayor of this city, the police commissioner of this city, and everybody in the white power structure of this city must take a responsibility for everything. Can you feel it?
Luther and I, and everyone in this arena tonight, are unified by the same great American values. We're proud of our country. We respect our flag. Wouldn't you love to see one of these NFL owners, when somebody disrespects our flag, to say, get that son of off the field right now, out, he's fired. He's fired!
Race is when you use your power and influence to subject people into inferiority. Utterances can't be racist.
Look around you, man. They own this shit. They own this couch you sitting on, them shoes you got on your feet, this building, this school, this country, you. We're behind enemy lines, dog.
So you must first of all remember that this system was not originally designed with black people in mind. Right on, and it definitely was not prepared for black people to, in the end, begin to demand their rights and an equal share in this country which they died for. Right on. Hey, and we definitely are not going back to Africa.
In the church, we used to sing the song, "Good news, the chariot is coming." While you sit here today, knowing that you have come to hear good news, you must realize in advance what good news for you might be bad news for somebody else. What good news for the sheep might be bad news to the wolf.
They say, oh, things are getting so much better for you. In 1849, it was hitting blacks on the head 100 times a day. In 1990, they hit them 48 times a day. Isn't it better? Oh, it's got to be better. You're saved 52 blows.
The only purpose of most black Americans on earth today is to destroy
I think that's noble. Italians love Italians, when Irish love Irish, but when a nigga loves a nigga, it's an unpardonable sin.
They have blood in their hands. When we say they have blood in their hands, we are not saying him, George Bezos, went and killed. But white people colonized us. They dispersed us. They enslaved our people. They sucked our economy dry. They are still sucking it dry even today. That's white people. Tony Blair, George Bush, Napoleon Bonaparte, Leopold, Adolf Hitler, Benjamin Netanyahu, all white people, they are the same. They are racist and they are full of hate.
I've been waiting for you. You have many questions, and though the process has altered your consciousness, you remain irrevocably human. Ergo, some of my answers you will understand, and some of them you will not. Concordantly, while your first question may be the most pertinent, you may or may not realize it is also the most irrelevant.
Why am I here?
Our world is coming crumbling down. The coons are coming.
You got to understand that white America has an uncanny way of making the victim the victimizer. Excuse me, master, for putting my head in the way of your club. Not that your club is brutalizing my head and putting hickeys on it. My head got in the way of your free swing and broke your shiny stick, and I want to apologize for that.
Your life is the sum of a remainder of an unbalanced equation inherent to the programming of the Matrix. You are the eventuality of an anomaly which, despite my sincerest efforts, I have been unable to eliminate from what is otherwise a harmony of mathematical precision. While it remains a burden assiduously avoided, it is not unexpected and thus not beyond a measure of control, which has led you inexorably here.
There are more connections in the human body than there are stars in the galaxy. We possess a gigantic network of information to which we have almost no access.
Matrix is older than you know. I prefer counting from the emergence of one integral anomaly to the emergence of the next, in which case this is the 6th version.
5 months before. 3. There are only 2 possible explanations. 5 months before. Either no one told me, or no one knows.
Precisely. As you are undoubtedly gathering, the anomaly is systemic, creating fluctuations in even the most simplistic equations.
Control me! I'm gonna smash you to You can't make me do anything like Chris!
Choice. The problem is choice.
Let us remember that we are not brutalized because we're Baptists. We're not brutalized because we're Methodists. We're not brutalized because we're Muslims. We're not brutalized because we're Catholics. We're brutalized because we are black people in America.
Because white people made him to be what he is. They made him to look evil, because that's their role, to make all of us black people to look evil and to hate ourselves. I can't hate.
You're a nigga till you die. If you're a poor nigga, you're a poor nigga. If you're a rich nigga, you're a rich nigga. But you never stop being a nigga. And if you get to be educated, you're just an educated nigga.
Well, I'm told every day I'm on air that I'm racist because I call out racism. That is maddening to me, and I'm crying about it because it's crazy.
So the Honorable Elijah Muhammad is teaching you and I and trying to tell the white man to get this powder keg out of his house. Let the black man separate from his house. Let the black man have his own house. Let the black man have his own land and his own property.
I thought the bitch was white! Damn it! I thought the bitch was white!
That's true.
I think that white people are so guilty, knowing what they've done to black people, that they feel if the deeds were reversed, they would hate the black man if he had done the same thing to them. So it's actually, it reflects a guilt complex on the part of whites when they ask us, do we hate them? And if you notice, Uncle Sam has formed a habit of going all over the world. He calls it the ugly American, or the American image. He thinks that everybody hates him because it's a guilt complex. And if you think that if you are worried about Europeans hating you, and they're your allies and your cousins, well, naturally it would follow for you to think that Negroes in this country would hate you, especially in light of what has been done to black people in this country by white people.
Now, check it out. The white ball dominates everything, right? Knocks the shit out the yellow ball, the red ball, right? And the game's over when the white ball drives the black ball completely off the table.
But you have to see that all of this is hypocrisy.
I love Malcolm. Malcolm called me the Sunday that he died. I was working Basin Street East. He said, "Brother Greg, you coming by today?" And I said, "Malcolm, I love you." And I said, "I love you so much, I don't even want to take a chance to be there." He said, "What do you mean, Brother Greg?" I said, "Well, I close tonight, Sunday night at Basin Street East." And I said, "But I had my wife book me a flight into Chicago at 8 o'clock this morning, and I'm going to Chicago, and I had way beneath my salary booked me into a college about 10 miles from the airport. And I'm going to go there and speak this afternoon, and I'm going to stay there until they tell me you dead. Because I'm not going to let this government get two of us for the price of one. And I'm going to call Adam Clayton Powell when I finish talking to you and beg him not to come there. Because today, the United States government is going to get you."